Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Louise HOBART begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, Parliament has returned after an 8-week-long winter break, with cost of living high on the agenda. Labor still blaming the government for power price hikes, and the government unveils support and a new MP.
Parliament is back from an extended winter break with a new student in class.
So far all I've got to do is sit in Parliament and sign the form to log in, and I'm really looking forward. I'm excited to get underway.
And there's nothing like a test on the first day.
Why aren't Tasmanians paying Tasmanian prices for Tasmanian power?
Minister, have you betrayed Tasmanians?
Labor zeroing in on the near 12% power price hike hitting consumers.
Tasmanians are being smashed by the rising cost of living.
The party that puts downward pressure on cost of living, and you will always be the party that creates 65% power increases when you are last in power.
The Treasurer even taking a seat as MPs bickered, and Bass MP Janie Finlay was asked to leave the chamber.
Member for Bass, you can leave the chamber.
Oh dear.
Until after question time.
It's no surprise that recent struggles provided ample ammunition as the major parties came face to face. The opposition keen to talk resignations and proroguing, and the Premier was more than happy to return serve about Labor's federal intervention.
If you don't want to talk about how much of a dysfunctional rabble you are, don't lead with your chin.
As the squabbling continued, some cost of living relief was provided, with funds to go to neighbourhood houses and food providers.
We've tried to target pretty heavily towards those organisations that our most vulnerable people are most likely to come in contact with as a first stop.
Look, there are people coming in under a lot of duress and a lot of stress, and really some people at wit's end.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Health Department has downgraded the state's COVID risk to moderate following a decline in daily infections. Tasmanians are being warned case numbers will fluctuate and to continue safe behaviours. It comes as the death toll jumped again overnight, with 2 people dying from the virus. Tasmanian health staff could receive a long-awaited bonus for their work through the pandemic. The Premier has proposed to unions a $2,000 allowance for frontline staff in place of the COVID-19 allowance. The bonus had initially been offered only to recently retired staff who agreed to return to work, attracting criticism. In an Australian first, Hobart City Council has voted to remove a monument honouring a controversial former Premier. The decision came after fiery debate but has been welcomed by Tasmania's Aboriginal community.
A landmark decision to erase the horrors of the past.
Today's society is ready. The true Aboriginal history of Tasmania and right across the country has been swept under the rug for far too long now.
The final verdict to remove William Crowther's bronze statue divided representatives last night.
Carried Lord Mayor 7 votes to 4.
It is the beginning of a really important new chapter, a chapter where the City of Hobart is making a commitment to truth-telling.
Alderman Marty Zuko was among those opposed, making an attempt to defer the matter.
I move that the Council conducts an elector poll on this very issue,
sparking confrontation inside the chambers.
Many groups and individuals
made a determination that the elected members still going.
Marking the first time any state has moved to tear down a monument of a former Premier.
I see this as a great step forward. Someone needed to stand up to the plate and make the right decision, which the Hobart City Council have done.
It's unclear when the official removal of the statue will begin, but a planning permit is required to do so, with the current council hoping to get the job done in the coming months.
Potentially the statue will be displayed somewhere else, and we will commission a new public artwork that tells a much broader and more honest version of what was going on in that era.
Despite elections looming, the current Lord Mayor is confident the move won't be overturned.
I think a new council will certainly also recognise commitments that we've made, that this is a part of our reconciliation action plan.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Tassal has become the latest local aquaculture company to fall into foreign ownership, with the business snapped up by a Canadian family seafood giant. The news sparking mixed reactions, with some welcoming it as a positive, while others have described it as a Tasmanian tragedy.
The catch of the day for a Canadian conglomerate. After multiple attempts, Cook Seafood has finally managed to reel in Tassal, the Hobart-based company accepting an offer of $5.23 per share, valuing it at more than $1 billion. In a statement, CEO Mark Ryan says the board unanimously recommends the deal because it reflects the business's long-term value, also calling the takeover a natural fit due to their shared values.
The Cook had made 3 separate approaches prior to today, but today's offer was about an 8% increase on the prior offer.
Analysts say their full-year results show why there's interest. Released today, it showed revenue jump by more than 30%, with profits surging by 60% due to a growth in sales.
What Cook are trying to do is look to increase their geographical footprint into the Southern Hemisphere. Tassal are a very profitable company and well run.
For others, the news is fishy business. Environmentalists calling it a dark day, blasting Cook's environmental record in Canada, which has seen them fined millions of dollars.
Cook Aquaculture is one of the worst records environmentally in Canada, and now they've bought out Tassal.
They've been described by officials in Canada as having a reckless disregard for aquatic ecosystems.
If approved in November, Tassal will join human aquaculture and Petunia as being foreign-owned. The Premier says any new investors must ensure there is no harm to the local environment.
What is important is that whoever invests in Tasmanian salmon industry does so sustainably.
It's time the government gave a timeline to move onto land.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
An internal audit has found the Mac Point Development Corporation has lost several key documents. According to KPMG, signed contracts for 3 procurements cannot be located, while there are missing or incorrect documents for another 6. While the process found the organisation has not complied with its requirements, it did not reach the conclusion that this was done deliberately. A new report has found Tasmanian tenants as some of the coldest in the country. The study finding Tasmanians are suffering through chilly conditions, which is placing a burden on both health and wallets.
Tasmanian tenants are shivering through winter.
It is so cold that it hurts.
A national study conducted by Better Renting tracked temperature and humidity across 75 rentals, including 9 in Tasmania throughout June and July.
We had not only the coldest house in Tassie, but the coldest house in the whole program, in the whole of Australia.
Alana's Claremont rental dropped to 0.2 degrees, while the state recorded an average minimum temperature of 7.5.
I think what's making it worse in Tasmania is not just the cold weather, but the quality of the housing itself.
The World Health Organisation recommends a minimum of 18 degrees indoors, but more than 90% of Tassie renters are failing to reach that.
We're not surprised by the findings. We receive calls every week from tenants complaining, shivering through winter because of the cold.
But battling the cold and mould also has its health implications.
Cold houses leads to greater instances of asthma. We also know that people that live in colder houses are more likely to have mental illness exacerbated.
The Tasmanian Residential Tenancy Act requires all rental properties must have a heating device in the main living area, but the Tenants' Union says more needs to be done.
What we would really like to see is the government commit to minimum energy efficient appliances in all rental properties. We'd also like to see minimum standards improved so that rental properties have to have insulation.
To keep the winter blues away. MAKENNA, BAILY, 7 Tasmania News.
The wheels are back in motion on Tasmania's AFL team bid after league bosses fleshed out the proposal overnight. For more, let's bring in Tom Johnson. Good evening, Tom. Where are we with the bid now?
Well, good evening, Louise. At this stage, the AFL is still fine-tuning how the new team might work, so it's not only good for the league and Tasmania, but also the other clubs. After all, 12 of the 18 clubs need to give the proposal the thumbs up, or else it's dead in the water. We've heard plenty about the new stadium, but another big point is what players and draft picks the team will receive. The tightrope the AFL's walking is making sure any concessions from the other clubs don't put them off the bid, but aren't watering down to the point that Tasmania is uncompetitive. The final vote is still on track for the last week of August, possibly early September at the very latest, but there's still plenty more work to do. Another point of interest is Alistair Clarkson. He's been one of the key drivers of the bid, but with North Melbourne and now Essendon chasing his signature, it remains to be seen what impact that'll have on his involvement with the bid if he takes on a new role, Louise.
A mid-morning Hobart CBD fire alarm has forced employees onto the street. Crews attended the Australian Government Centre on Collins Street at 9:20 after reports of smoke from the ceiling of the City Doctor's premises. The incident has been blamed on an electrical issue and was extinguished within 10 minutes. 2 staff were checked for smoke inhalation. Meanwhile, a fire at a unit in Rokeby last night has been deemed accidental. Crews from multiple stations were called to the Duntroon Place residence close to 5 o'clock. It took firefighters 10 minutes to bring the blaze under control. Damage is estimated at $50,000. Circle of Life is coming to life when The Lion King premieres at the Princess Theatre tonight. The musical favourite features a cast of 64 students from Stage Right Youth Theatre. Taking on the role of Rafiki pushed performer Laura Bai out of her comfort zone.
To do something different and kind of put my ego beside me and really just go out and be quirky and crazy.
I had it on VHS when I was little and used to watch it on TV, loved singing along to Hakuna Matata.
And they'll be singing along to plenty more Lion King classics when the show takes place over the next 3 nights. It's a wrap on the Tasmanian Tourism Conference with hundreds of delegates taking part in the event. Industry leaders are feeling confident moving forward as they prepare for a booming summer period.
Tassie's tourism industry is travelling well past the peak of the pandemic, with more than 400 delegates looking forward to the future by participating in the Tasmanian Tourism Conference, this year's theme focusing on leaving a positive impact.
It's about addressing our employment disadvantage issues we've got around getting some really specific training programs to try and get more young people into our workforce.
Australian of the Year Dylan Alcott headlined the event, bringing tourism industry leaders together, while examining the untapped market of accessible tourism.
The travel industry for people with disability is huge, but not tapped into. Please understand that.
I think there's a subconscious bias that exists in terms of, and Dylan Alcott sort of talked about it a bit in terms of what people believe people with disability can achieve.
Participants were actively engaged in learning about the changing tourism landscape.
So the main message today was sort of thinking about the way that the industry is employing staff and trying to change the way that we're thinking.
Another key message of the day, tourism is back and set to boom come summer.
We've been through a hell and back over the last 2 years of tourism, so again, to see now that there's a bit of a pathway forward. Most operators are very vibrant and buoyant at the moment, big expectations for this summer.
MAKENNA BAILY, 7 Tasmania News.
In local hockey, Canterbury's men's side believes it's found its groove ahead of the Premier League finals. Canterbury came from behind to draw with ladder leader Derwent on Saturday. While the result extended its winless run to 6, a midfielder says there were positive signs.
Really trying to build some momentum going into finals, and obviously Derwent a pretty top side, so we were looking to kind of bring some of our form back from early in the season. I think we're getting there.
In the women's, OHA is preparing for a blockbuster against Northwest Grads on Saturday. They warmed up for that clash in style, thumping Diamondbacks 8-4 last round.
I think we played really well on the weekend, so we're going to try and lead that into this week's game because we did really good passing, which we've been trying to work on.
The winner this weekend is likely to claim the minor premiership. The Hurricanes have signed their 3rd and final import for the Women's Big Bash season. England's Izzy Wong will switch to purple after playing for the Sydney Thunder last season. The pace bowler is currently playing for Birmingham Phoenix in the UK's The 100, where she took 1 for 17 overnight. She was up against her future teammate Elise Villani, who top scored for the Trent Rockets with a 33.
Good evening. Hobart 15 degrees today, 2 above average. Launceston over 4 degrees up on normal with 18. Burnie and Devonport 16. A few light scattered showers today over many parts, not so much over the north and northeast. St Helens, Friendly Beaches and Bushy Park all 17. Wynyard 16. Grove and Flinders Island 15. King Island and Strawn 13 degrees. Convective low level cloud today, just patchy over the north, plenty over the south. More of that cloud over the southeast of the continent. Cloud with a front crosses Western Australia, a pool of cold air in behind. Tomorrow, the high moves over eastern Australia. The cold front passes south of the Bight with troughs following. The winds will turn north-northwesterly tomorrow morning, reaching up to 25 to 35 knots over the west, just 10 to 15 knots over the southwest lakes. Gale warning has been issued for waters between Southeast Cape and Sandy Cape, and a strong wind warning from Sandy Cape to Tasman Island. A moderate flood warning for the Macquarie, Meander and South Esk rivers, a minor flood warning for the Jordan and North Esk. Midweek we go, and Hobart a late shower or 2 and 15, 14 for Geeston, a late shower, showers developing as well for Bothwell, 14 the maximum. Launceston 15 degrees with showers later on, rain developing for Devonport, 13 the high and 14 the top for Cressy. Burnie 13, rain on the way, Strawn the same, 15 the top though and 14 the high for Curry on King Island. And for St Helens, a late shower, 15, 16 for Swansea, a late shower for Orford and 15 degrees. Thursday, rain, more persistent over the north and west with snow to 900 metres, snow to 700 metres on Friday, small hail in the west with showers mainly over the west, far south and Bass Strait. And on Saturday, showers mostly contracting to the west, south and central regions in the morning. Rain in Perth, a late shower for Adelaide and Melbourne, sunny weather for Canberra and Sydney, 22 in Brisbane tomorrow and sunny over the top end.
And that's all your news for now. I'll be back later on with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.